Hi guys, Stu, Alan and the rest of the team here from Outdoor Basics, and we are going to do a small video series. I think it's going to be 6 parts in the end on Dave Canterbury's 5C's. Dave Canterbury done the 5C's of survival and then expanded that into the 10C's, and it was absolutely awesome when he done it. He done a follow-up video a few years later and kind of expanded it even more. And I watched that recently and I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I decided to give my take, my thoughts on that 5C's and what I think of it. So the 5C's that we're going to cover are cutting tool, cover, combustion, container and cordage. Ronan, it's alright Ronan. You got to stay with me, mate. So this is Ronan. Ronan has been sniffing about here all day and I don't know what it is that he smells. I can't work it out, but he's just wanting some attention. Right, anyway, ignore the dog. So, the first thing I'm going to cover is cutting tool. In his follow-on video, Dave Canterbury says, don't think of it, I'm paraphrasing, don't think of it so much as an item, think of it as a heading. And for me that was absolutely fantastic, because if you're using the 5C's and the 10C's to build a good solid kit for getting into the woods or out into the field with, taking one tool doesn't work for me, that one tool option mentality. I'm not a fan of it. Having a heading of cutting tools, what cutting tools am I likely to use on this trip, is far better. So for me, what cutting tools have I been primarily using recently? Out bushcrafting, building our camp and just having general days in the woods. For me, what I've been using is my Mora Garberg. So in cutting tools, I would suggest the first thing that you should think of in a bushcraft scenario or a survival scenario is a full tang knife. So I went for the Mora Garberg carbon full tang knife, fantastic. These are the tools that I use the most, but they would interchange depending on what I was doing. If I was just going hill walking for the day, I'd probably just take my Leatherman Wave, because where I live in Scotland, if I cut around with a Condor Mini Dooku on my hip, I'd get arrested. Even on the hill, people would be like, what is that, not job doing? You just wouldn't get away with it. Here, bushcrafting in the woods, it's completely different. So using it as a heading, I can tailor it for what I'm doing. For a day bushcrafting, these are generally the 4 cutting tools that I would take. A silky big boy, a solid belt knife, a larger knife or axe. For me, I'm really digging the Condor Mini Dooku at the minute, really enjoying it. I'm actually going to rehandle it. And then just as a fantastic multi-tool option because of all the things it offers, from scissors, why couldn't I get these out? From scissors to can openers to even a saw, a serrated edge, is a wee Leatherman Wave. So this is what we're going to cover within these next few videos, using the 5C's as a heading to build a kit that suits you and what you're doing at that time. So for general bushcrafting, these are the cutting tools I would use. However, as I said, if I was on a multi-day trip, I'd maybe take a small forest axe, I'd maybe take a bow saw. It would all depend on what I was doing. So use it as a heading to tailor the cutting tools that you need for the trip that you're on. Okay guys, so next we're moving on to cover. As I've stated in the previous video, these are the 5C's is like a heading. When we say cover, it doesn't necessarily mean just a tarp. It can mean it's like a plethora of things, that's a good word, isn't it? It's an array of things for cover. So for me, I'm going to start before I get to anything else, because what I want to be able to do is maintain my own core body temperature. I don't want it to drop and I don't want it to skyrocket. I want to be able to maintain my own core body temperature. So for cover, for me, it's going to start with what you're wearing. Do you have the appropriate gear on? Do you have a good rain shell? Do you have a wind top? Do you have a correct warm jacket? Do you have a hat? Do you have gloves? Are you wearing the appropriate trousers and footwear? So the first thing for me in cover is what you are wearing to cover your immediate body. For a general day in the woods for me just now, I really can't see past the Helican Tex Pilgrim smock and trousers. Absolutely outstanding bit of kit. Windproof, lightweight. I've waxed the jacket, it makes it very water repellent if not proof. Just absolutely fantastic. I've got a breathable t-shirt on, and I've got a kind of body warmer, fleece body warmer, so I can kind of layer myself. I can layer myself as I see fit. So the first part of cover for me is what I'm wearing directly onto myself. Moving kind of up the chain, next I always have my TRC Outdoors Zoot suit and my survival scarf, the Chorizo windproof suit. If you want to look back through our video catalogue, you'll see this. What's really good about this suit is, let's say I've been out, this is more about inconvenient camping, being able to survive that 3-day period. We've yomped off into the woods, we're having a bushcraft period, and I hurt myself, and I have to be left while Al yomps out. This windproof suit is an absolutely outstanding, lightweight, insulating addition, and I can utilise it, and I'll explain how I can utilise it slightly later on into my kit, but it's just a fantastic addition. If you want to see more about the suit itself, look back through our video catalogue. Next, I have a warm jacket, and for me, I'm really digging at the moment the Montane Prism jacket. I had one for years, and then I seen one in this colour going really cheap, and I couldn't say no. It's filled with Primaloft gold, it's windproof, it's lightweight, it packs down into nothing, it's absolutely outstanding. So as you can see, for me in cover, before I do anything, it's the clothing. Do I have the appropriate clothing for the environment that I'm in? If I was out doing a day in the hills, no, I probably wouldn't take my pilgrim suit. I would have like a lightweight Gore-Tex waterproof shell, lightweight walking trousers. I would still take my Montane Prism, I would still take my windproof top. But for the environment that I'm in and what I'm doing a day bushcrafting, this is absolutely fantastic, appropriate kit that just keeps me really safe. And I've got redundancies on things as well, and I can layer up and layer down as I see fit. We have a video on layering systems as well, if you want to have a wee look back through that. Next is, I suppose you would call it, my emergency sleep system and my kind of emergency backup warm set, which is this Helican Tex Swagman roll. These are absolutely awesome bits of kit, and I'm going to do an independent video on this at the end of the 5C's, just talking about how awesome I think this bit of kit is. Fantastic bit of kit. Helican Tex Swagman roll, can't see past it, top bit of kit. I have in cover as well a roll mat, a snap mat, a lined one as well. It's lined with kip sheet, which is like a very lightweight waterproof nylon that adds a layer of waterproof and kind of insulation to my roll mat. And then this is kind of like a different, if you looked back through our videos, you'll notice I done my take on a Moscow Hansky survival scarf. This is my other option on a Moscow Hansky survival scarf, and I can use this for a multitude of things. A, as a scarf, B, as a browse bed, C, as a hammock, like all sorts of things. I'm going to show you now in my cover section how I utilise this to kind of make an emergency sleep system. Dave done it really awesomely in his update video using like an old school American GI hammock, and I'm just going to demonstrate my take on that now, so stay tuned for that. See you in a minute. Small enough to fit into my pocket, and it has a multitude of uses, an absolute load of uses, and if you look through my survival scarf video you'll see that. And this is a slightly bigger version. What's really good about this is, if I had to, I can cinch the ends down and I've left this slit here on the side so I could climb inside it as like a survival bivvy, a completely windproof survival bivvy, so that's a great option for that. I'll maybe do like a separate video on this one, but we'll see how we go. The paracord that I put in this, I believe it was 720 paracord, because it's just what got sent through. So yeah, the same as Dave says in his video, no, this isn't going to be like a big massively comfortable lying sideways hammock. That's not going to happen, but I'm going to show you how I can utilise my roll mat with it and stuff like that and make my life even easier. So utilising that slit that's in the middle, I can bang my roll mat inside it. And that makes it almost like an underquilt. It's giving me a massive amount of insulation. It's going to stop that, me losing that heat. And then I can get in it. So as I say, I'm not going to be lying sideways in it anytime soon, but I could easily get in it. My back's insulated with that roll mat, and if the floor is absolutely howling, I can get in it and I'm here insulated off the floor. So this one item has become a massive multi-use item. Again, a browse bed, a scarf, a signalling device, can be used for first aid, i.e. slings, and now it's a hammock with a roll mat that I can fit inside it. If I then and again, another reason why I absolutely love the Swagman roll. Just find the end, sorry lads. You always go the wrong way, don't you? So for absolutely no weight whatsoever, and all multi-use kit, every item here is a multi-use bit of kit. I can have an emergency sleep system. I can have my tarp above me. I've got my hammock, my roll mat, and I'm up off the floor. And again, utilising that with all the warm kit. If I got into my parasilk suit, if this, let's say, again, I'll need to crack the old wet and dry routine, I can get my wet kit off, put my dry windproof suit on, get my warm jacket on, my hat, my gloves, get inside this under a tarp. I'm going to be pretty comfortable in most of the environments that I'm likely to face, really. So yeah, and again, with this, I can utilise this as a warm jacket as well, in the kind of poncho roll style. So yeah guys, cover isn't necessarily just a tarp or just a blanket. It should be a layered system within your kit. Cover for me starts on the body. Do I have the correct clothing on for the environment I'm looking to go into? The answer should always be yes. Start for there, then move up for there. Well, I'll take that roll mat because it can act as a sit mat. That's fine, it's a roll mat if I need it. I'll take this because it can act as a scarf, it can act as a signalling device, all the things that I mentioned. I'll take this because it can act as a warm jacket and a sleeping bag. And these are all really lightweight, small packing items. They take up absolutely no room and they take up absolutely no weight. So for me, for a day in the woods or a general hike about, this is what I would take for cover, incorporated with a tarp and the correct clothing. Okay guys, thanks very much for having a look at the second video in our series cover and just having a look at how I like to set all this up. I'll maybe do a separate video on the scarf and the Swagman roll at a later date. And now we're moving on to Combustion. The way I like to take care of Combustion is I have it on a line in my pocket. I also have it on my belt. I'll put this here. I always like to have a really solid fire steel on my belt. I'll just put it on here. Absolutely banging fire steel. I got this for the Bushcraft store. I quite like it. I think it's been absolutely solid. I like the big orange handle. I'm not going to lose it. And you'll be able to start more fires with this than you'd ever need, really. So yeah, I really like having that on my belt, on my knife, and that's my primary go-to kind of fire steel if I need it. What I also have is this fire line. Anybody that done any time in the military, especially within the Royal Marines, everything has to be lanyarded to you, and if it isn't, you're getting chucked in the river, you're going to get a beasting. So for me, this is really easy. Lanyarded into my pocket, I'm not going to lose it. Again, I've got my lighters. This is a kind of, you don't want to mess around, just go to use your lighter. I've taped these two lighters together, and the way this works and why this works better for me, when I use this lighter, let's say it's a little bit more windy, I spark that lighter, when I press the second one, it gives that much bigger flame. I've got it on bright orange, so I'm not going to lose it. To kind of help me get a fire in more cheeky conditions, let's say the tinder or the kindling isn't so great, I've got good quality fat wood, and I've got a mag block with a backup striker on it. And that's really going to give me a good ignition source. So it's just kind of, I can get a fire going anywhere with these two. The paracord that it's on is 550 fire cord as well, so the inner strand can act as a tinder. But yeah, primary thing is always going to be that lighter. Taping the two together gives you that real kind of extra boost. Fat wood and a mag block. As a wee backup, I always like to just have an extra fire steel. No reason not to. It weighs absolutely nothing, and I've got a couple of strikers here. Just a general one that kind of came with a mag block, throws sparks really well, and then this thing here. It's like a wee mini blade. I just use the back of it. I sharpened the back of it up on a kind of stone, and it throws sparks absolutely no probs. So yeah, massively impressed with that. So yeah, this is how I take care of Combustion. I always have a fire steel on all my knives, every knife I have. If you look back at our other video, I added these wee toggle fire steels. And look back a few videos and you'll see how I've used these fire steel toggles with 550 cord. I've got my ferro rod on the knife and then this wee fire line in my pocket. As well, in my kit as a whole, I have a fire kit. It's all different types of tinders, loads of surefire stuff. Like for example, I've soaked loads of cotton wool pads in candle wax and Vaseline. I've got loads of like quick tinder tabs and all that sort of stuff. So I've got an actual fire kit separate. Is it in here? Yes. I've got a full fire kit completely separate here. This is more of a backup really. This is like in the absolute worst conditions, the worst weather imaginable, I could get a fire going no problem. However, 99.99% of the time, with my knife and my fire steel, I'd knock up a load of feather sticks, get it going. If I was struggling to get it going, I would use a wee bit of fat wood and I'm all good. So as you can see, I've layered my systems. I've got an option always on my knife, always. I've got a pocket, I've got a set attached to me in my pocket, and then I've got a backup fire kit in my main pack. As I said, combustion is a head and it's not a one tool thing. I've got layers because the ability to fire does so many things. I can purify water, I can cook food, I can regulate my core body temperature, I can dispel fear. Like one of the kind of mnemonics for survival, V, vanquish fear. Fire goes a huge way to doing that. If you're kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere, crapping yourself, you're injured, you're in a survival situation, getting a fire going is really going to raise everybody's morale and kind of allow everybody psychologically to push through to the next part. So yeah, multiple layers of combustion. Always have it on your knife, that's just my opinion. Always have it attached to you, and then have a backup fire kit in your main pack. So yeah, that's combustion. That's my take on it in the 5C's, and it's how I incorporate combustion into the layers of my kit. I'll see you in the next one where we are going to cover container. Hi guys, we are on the fourth part of our 5C's, container. So far we've covered cutting tool, cover combustion, and now we're moving on to container. Okay, so the container setup that I use is the Dave Canterbury Pathfinder set, and it's a stainless steel set. In conjunction with that, I have my it's Helicon Text, I believe, in it. Helicon Text Millbank bag, water filtration bag. I've done a full review on how to use a Millbank bag or a water filtration bag on the channel, so if you just kind of put it into your video history, you'll see it. A Millbank bag, a water filter bag, is worth its weight in gold. Absolutely outstanding when combined with a kit like this. So why have I chosen this kit? A few reasons really. Primarily because it's stainless steel. So let's say for example, I do need to purify water, I can do it in the bottle. Why do I like it with a nesting cup? You should always have it with a nesting cup because A, I can boil water in one, so I can purify water in one, cook food in the other. Also, I can use it to avoid things like cross-contamination. And it's more robust. You're not going to crack it, break it, drop it, smash it, have a nightmare. It's just a far more solid, robust way of doing things. There's loads of different types of metals and stuff like that. Stainless steel just seems to be the best. A, because you can have it under a naked flame, absolutely no problem. B, it's absolutely solid, and C, it's not going to rust up on you. And I just think it's absolutely bomb-proof. So for me, this is the best way to go. In conjunction with a Millbank bag, I might add. So as I said, look back through our previous videos and you'll see how to use a Millbank bag. Basically, nice and simple. What I would do is filter the water through the Millbank bag into my cup, boil it in my cup, and then pour it into my water bottle. Then there's zero cross-contamination. It's not a case of filling it up with my water bottle, pouring it into my cup, and then I boil it in the cup and pour it back into the water bottle when that's absolutely howling. It's not the best way to do it. I can use the Millbank bag to ensure that all the crap's out yet and I'm not going to get any cross-contamination, and it's just absolutely bomb-proof. Added in with containers, as I said, container is just a heading. Some people really like to kind of take bowls and stuff like that out with them, cookses, all that sort of stuff. Take what works for you. I'm not really a mad fan of, I'm going to lose people's respect here, I'm not a big fan of coffee, I'm not a big fan of tea, it just isn't my thing. So I don't really need a cookser or anything like that. And in general I use boiling the bags. If I'm out and about, then I'll just scran straight out of the bag. So I don't really need bowls and cups and stuff like that. So for me and pretty much everything that I do, this is absolutely fantastic. However, use it, the heading container, to find what works for you. One of the guys, Austin, that comes out, he's got like nesting plates and nesting bowls and cups and all sorts of things all click together, man. He's like the ultimate Avon guy, do you know what I mean? Like everything's all clicked together. And that's because he brings his dog, so he needs one bowl to put water in for his dog, he needs one bowl to give food to the dog. He's got bowls for himself to eat out of, so for his needs, he needs to come out here, like, do you know what I mean, Optimus Prime cup guy, and that's what works for him. I don't need that, that isn't what's required for me. So as usual, use the heading to fit the requirements of the kit that you need. Okay guys, so that was option number 4, container. We're now moving on to the final one, cordage, and the types of cordage that I like to use and why. I don't actually have the cordage that I prefer to use, which is what Dave recommends, number 36 Bankline. It seemed to be, I don't know if it was the big C word or I don't know, it seemed to be out of stock absolutely everywhere in the UK. I was struggling to get it. If you look over here, you'll see that we've got it all over our camp. It's what we use to build our camp, yeah. So I'll briefly talk about Bankline. Bankline can be broken down into 3 strands, and it can be used independently in those 3 strands to add longevity to the amount of cord that you have, or used as one piece of cord. What it is basically a cordage that's been tarred. That's like makes it anti-rot, more weatherproof, and it's just a really robust, usable cordage. It's absolutely fantastic. Today, funnily enough, I went on to check, and TRC Outdoors, who done the chorizo suit, they now stock Bankline, and they've got loads of Bankline in. So I rate Bankline that highly that I'm going to go and buy about 3 rolls of it. I'm going to try and get a load of it so that I don't run out again. Another thing that it has over like normal paracord, for example 550 or 275, they'll stretch. They have a bit of like bounce and flex in them. Bankline doesn't really have that, so it's kind of better for building camps and stuff like that. However, 550 breaks down, as I just showed recently in my laces. In my laces, I use 550 survival cord, and that breaks down with loads of strands, and that gives me loads of options. Also in a recent video, I just showed you that on the end of my knife I have 550 fire cord. I have a load of 550 fire cord on my knife sheath, and when I covered combustion, I mentioned that the cord that I use to attach my combustion devices is also 550 fire cord. So I use a lot of 550 because you can use the outer core. It's very, very strong. The inner strands can be used for sewing kit up, making traps, all sorts of stuff. What I'm using at the moment that isn't really great, but it's all that was available, because 550 and 275 is expensive. If you look at my tarp here, I've got 275 paracord here. That is 4 inner strands, I believe, instead of 7. So that's an alternative if you're looking to kind of not have too much bulk. What I'm using at the minute for cordage is this fake paracord. I would much rather have 550, 275 or Bankline if it was really come down to the crunch. However, at the moment, this kind of cheap paracord, it does have an inner strand and the outer core is pretty strong. So for just general bushcrafting and stuff like that around my area, it's okay. However, if I was going on a bit of an expedition somewhere, I would far rather have Bankline or 550. Why is cordage so important? It's very hard to replicate cordage in the wild. Yes, I could use nettles and make cordage, and yes, I could use vines and roots and bark and all these other things. A, that is incredibly time consuming. B, loads of calories would be burned, and it's just a difficult thing to do. These 5C's as a whole are, as I've said earlier, they're the headings of a base kit that's hard to replicate in the wild. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to make yourself a full tang knife in the wild. It's hard to make yourself a saw in the wild. These are bits of kit that you just couldn't make yourself. So these 5C's allow that base kit to be built of kit that's really hard to replicate, however absolutely essential in the wild. And the final part of that is cordage. I actually have some Bankline on the end of that because this used to be covered in Bankline. So yeah, I'm going to get myself along to TRC Outdoors and get some Bankline. So yeah, I'm going to add 2C's on in the next video. Dave Canterbury has the 10C's. The first 5C's are just the basis of a really good outdoor kit, and then the next are his take on additional kit. I'm going to do that also. I'm going to do part 2 to make it up to the 10C's. I'm going to add 2C's of my own on. I'm not trying to shit on Dave Canterbury, the man's an absolute ninja. He knows his stuff inside and out. I'm just giving a wee bit of detail on something that I think is really, really important. Dave actually covered one of them, and I'm just gonna go through it and my take on it. So yeah, this has been the 5C's. Tune into part 6 for 2 additional C's for me that I think are important. When Dave done his updated version, he talked about a bag to carry the kit, and he actually did talk about it. I think he talked about a kind of basic German day sack. It was fantastic, looked like a good bit of kit. So I see that I would add in your initial kit setup is carry. Get the best bag you can. Do some research. Google is your friend. You know, have a look at the best bag you can afford. Why? Because you want to be as comfortable as possible, and you also want to be organised. Optimise the organisation of your kit as best as possible. Like on this, the majority of the kit is in pouches on the outside of the bag, so I don't need to go into the main compartment. My primary sleeping gear and warm gear and stuff is in the main compartment. Although this is only a small bag, a kind of up to 3-day bag, it's nothing massive, it still just gives me real good organisational capability of my kit, so things are easier. And then B, because it's really comfortable, it just makes my life easy. So one that I would add on most definitely is carry, and I know Dave said that himself. So for me, carry is absolutely essential. Get yourself the best bag you can. This is a Dragon Supplies Custom Commander's Day Sack. Stand by for a wee review of this. The next C that I would add is communication. So many people I know do one off into the woods to chill out and relax and disengage for the world, and I completely agree with that and I completely get it. I do the same thing. I do a lot of like cross-country running. I do a lot of kind of like weighted fitness over hills and stuff. I still take comms with me, man, even if I turn them off, so that if things did go sideways, I could still get on the phone to my wife and say, I've came a crop or I've came unstuck. In that communications, here's an option for you. In the military, we're mad on route cards and route planning and orders processes and all this sort of stuff. A real good thing to do is, I am leaving at this time, I'm going from there to there to there. If I am not back by this time, there's a problem. There you go. There's a real simple backup plan. However, take a phone, man. I said this in a video before and a guy was like, phones and bushcrafting? Really? No way. Well, yeah, mate, I don't know. I've got a parang, I've got a saw, I've got a knife, all these things that I talked about. There's fire, there's hills, there's a cliff over there. There's all these things that I could have a serious problem. And if I can't get help and I'm alone, I'm bang in trouble. Also, I'm out with my son. If my son, who is actually whittling a stick as we speak, he's like making himself some sort of thing, if he slit his hand wide open, even with all the first aid kit I've got here, I would still want to phone an ambulance to be waiting on us by the time we get down to the main road. Communications are essential, yeah. So yeah, that's just 2 additional C's that I would add. Dave did talk about a bag, carry and communications. Just food for thought, guys. So yeah, this has been a wee kind of, I suppose now, 6-part series on the 5C's. I don't know how Al's going to release it, whether it's going to be weekly or on just one go, because I'm not that guy. If it was down to me, there wouldn't be an Outdoor Basics. Al's the absolute man. He videos it, he edits it, he puts it up in his own time. He does everything. I just sit here and waffle nonsense. So yeah, thank you so very much. As always, I've been Stu, he's been Alan, yous have been awesome. Thank you so very much for taking an interest in it. I never came up with the 5C's, Dave Canterbury did. Have a look at him, the man's an absolute ninja. This is just my take and my kind of look at it. See you in the next one, guys.